District Governor Chris Ford. Chris is a graduate of the Rockhurst High School, class of '93. He graduated from that other university up the road in '98. He's also an infantry officer in the U.S. Army for 8 years. He's an airborne ranger. His duty stations included Georgia, Italy, Kosovo, Germany, Texas, and Iraq. He's a partner at Trust, one of the Midwest's largest commercial insurance brokerages. He's vice president of sales for the company. He's the owner of Infusion Express with 8 healthcare clinics in 5 states. He's a member of the Overland Park South Rotary Club, the president in 2012. His wife, Amy, is a pharmacist. He has a 14-year-old son, Logan, and a 10-year-old daughter, Lauren. Please welcome Chris Ford.
I'm a wanderer, so I'm going to de-mic from the podium here. Before we get, is there an advancer, or are you my clicker today? You're going to be my clicker. Good to know. How ironic that I started my day at the Jayhawk Rotary Club this morning, and I will end my Rotary day at a club here in Manhattan. Anyways, ironic to me. Tim, is that right? Tim, I got a little gift for you here. Can everybody hear me, by the way? Tim, this is a Rotary coin. It's a Rotary 4-way test coin. And the 4-way test is a credo. It's a credo that we live by when making decisions as Rotarians, as a club, and as an organization. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for inviting Tim and sharing Rotary with someone. Hopefully this presentation will inspire you. It's going to be a good one. It's about Rotary in our district, and you'll get to learn more about it. That being said, not to make you feel any more pointed out, but you are literally the most important person in this room. The most important person in this room. Not a district governor, not John Germ, president of Rotary International, not Vernon, not anybody else but you. And the reason you're important to me is because I have a 14-year-old son, Logan, and a 10-year-old daughter, Lauren, that I want to be Rotarians. And in order for us to get them to be Rotarians, we have to perpetuate this fine organization. And perpetuating means growing. And growing means recruiting young professionals like yourself to join Rotary. So I hope you get inspired here down the road and think of us and join eventually. So that being said, Song, it's a long trip from Taiwan. Happy to have you. You're gonna enjoy this presentation, I hope. And I'm also glad to have Kevin in here. I've heard Kevin speak a couple times, and I always feel like he's talking only to me in the room when he speaks. And so here we get an opportunity. I get to speak with him in the room. So if Rotary is to realize its proper destiny, it must be evolutionary at all times and revolutionary on occasions. If Rotary is to realize its proper destiny, it must be evolutionary at all times and revolutionary on occasions. Who said that?
Paul Harris.
Paul Harris. Bill Richter. 7-time Paul Harris member. Congratulations, by the way. That's quite an honor. Yeah, Paul Harris. So anybody other than Bill, what did he mean by that? What did 37-year-old 1905 Paul Harris mean by that quote?
You have to change with the times.
Sometimes you're going to have to change exactly what you do, like we just had last meeting about changing some of our rules and how we operate. That'd be revolutionary for us, it seems like.
Yeah, that was a revolutionary meeting last week? Sorry, I missed it. Exactly. No, change, adopt. Our culture is different than the culture that Paul Harris and the original founders of Rotary were a part of. Right? The way that they did their good in their community is different than how we do our good. The way they broadcast their good is different than the way we broadcast our good. The way they grew and grow and perpetuated Rotary is different than the way that we have to grow and perpetuate Rotary. It's just different. So we have to continue to evolve and change with the times, and that'll be a theme consistent throughout this afternoon. But in the interim, congratulations. Congratulations on being part of the world's largest service-based organization, and congratulations on being part of the world's most successful service-based organization. Contrary to what the Kansas City Star had to say about 6 weeks ago, Rotary is actually a growing organization. It's shrinking domestically. It's shrinking domestically, and I think we have some solutions for that, but it's growing internationally. So we've got 1.2 million Rotarians spread over 217 countries. And those 217 countries are further partitioned into 34 zones. We're in Zone 27. Demographically, we are always compared with Zone 27 and 21B, which is Texas, parts of Texas and Mexico, which is south of us. Those 34 zones are further broken into 537 districts. So there's 537 Chris Fords walking around speaking to 35,362 clubs every week. That's a lot of Rotarians meeting a lot of times, doing a lot of good in their respective communities, if you think about it. On average, we're raising about $115 million as an organization to do good in our respective communities. And then until recently non-disclosed, 6.8%, roughly 7% of that goes towards overhead, which is a pretty good ratio. So let's take a deeper look at our district. What you see here is a map. And if you look on the right side, there's in yellow is District 5710, or just below where it says United States in yellow, District 5710. We're actually a pretty small district from a size standpoint. That's because we have a couple metropolitan communities within our footprint, right? We got Kansas City, Topeka, and Manhattan, Lawrence. A lot of my peers, like the district governor in Manhattan, they have to take 2 and 3 hour flights to visit clubs of only 10 people. Right? So maybe that's where some of that 6.8% goes to. How do we compare? How do we stack up against the other districts within the zone? We've got 46, actually now we have 45 clubs. Howard just defected. They're the southmost club, and it just made more sense from a time standpoint. They're traveling 3 and 4 hours for meetings, whereas from a district standpoint, it just made sense for them to join the one that's right there that they're frankly in from a footprint standpoint. So we've got 45 clubs, on average is 45. 2 weeks ago, the numbers just came out. Effective July 1st, we shrunk 100. So we are at 2,417 Rotarians in this district. On average, so we're actually pretty big district. On average, there's 1,900 Rotarians in the district. We're shrinking half a point a year. The rest of the zone, each district is growing just over half a point on average. 26.62% of us are female. That number's going to grow. This will be my 23rd meeting, so I've got 22 to go. In most of those meetings, there have been inductions of young women, which is a great thing. So I think that statistic is going to grow favorably. 5.9% of us are, I just turned 40. 5.9% of them are below 40, and then the remainder of us, the best of the group, is above 40. And we're a little bit higher than the average in the zone. And then we're keeping around 9 out of 10 from a retention standpoint, which also is a good statistic. Now, if you're like me, I truly I do now, but I, up until recently, had no idea what our financial good looked like in our communities. What is District 5710 doing financially as a collective footprint in our own communities? And so I wanted to share this information with you. So what you see on the screen is 2013, 14, and then 15. And if you don't understand what we're looking at district matching grants. So this is money that we collected, we gave to Rotary International, and 3 years later it comes back to us. And I'll tell you exactly how it happens. So in 2010, what you're looking at is 13 on the left, but in 2010, this district raised $320,000. Right? So in 2010, $320,000 went up to Rotary International, and they used it for 3 years. And then in 2013, 50%, $160,000, they gave back to us. They gave us 50% to spend back in our communities. Now, under the district bylaws, we take that 160 and we split it into two buckets. $80,000 goes into district matching grants, which we just applied for. You had $4,500 appropriated to your group. August 31st was the deadline. And then the other $80,000 goes into the global grant bucket for global grant initiatives. Okay? So in 2010, we gave $320 from a matching grant standpoint. In 2013, we had $80,000 to spend in our communities. Out of the 47 clubs at the time, only 28 clubs participated. That's a negative. The positive is we got to a zero balance. We actually spent all $80,000 back in the communities. However, if you look at 2014 and in 2015, we had 28 clubs, and then worse, we had 24 clubs only participating, leaving around 15,000 both years. So it's $15,000 that went unspent. Our money meant to be spent back in the community that was not spent through the grant situation. Now, if that money, just so you know, it doesn't just pop smoke and go away, after the deadline, so next week, we have the grant committee, we're going to review all the grants that came in on August 31st. If there's money left over, that goes into what's called a discretionary fund. And between now and July 1st, all of that money, if left over, if there's money left over, anybody can have it. If you submit a discretionary grant, not a matching grant, but a discretionary grant, and we have in the kitty $10,000, you can have $10,000. Okay? Hopefully we get to a zero balance. Now there's going to be more scrutiny on a discretionary grant. And why? Because now you're asking for everybody else's money that went unspent. You're asking for Overland Park's money. You're asking for Topeka's money. You're asking for Lawrence's money. You're asking for everybody else's money who didn't contribute or didn't participate. So there'll be more scrutiny. However, my intent is to get to a zero balance. Because that's the money that we raised 3 years ago in order to spend in our communities. And if somebody else is not going to take the initiative to do it, I hope you do. So that's the matching grants. Worst scenario is the global grants. It says $151,000. At the end of this year, it'll be around $190,000 sitting in the global grants. I was the president of the Overland Park South Club in 2012. Right, they sent me to Bangkok, Thailand for the Rotary International Convention. And you get there, and there's 217 countries worth of people, thousands of international Rotarians. You're drinking from a fire hose the whole time. You're hitting breakout sessions. You're doing this. You're doing that. Before you know it, you're sitting on a plane. You're coming home, and you're just processing what grandeur of Rotary you just witnessed. And I don't think I really understood the purpose of Rotary International Convention until this past time when I went this year to Seoul, South Korea. And if you take the time, this year's in Atlanta, by the way, so if anybody here feels inspired to make a road trip, and a lot of the district Rotarians are going, if you take the time at the Rotary International Convention to go to the House of Friendship, where there are hundreds of booths of Rotarians from 216 other countries, asking you if you have any funds available to partner with them on a global grant initiative that they're trying to champion. Whether it's a clean water project, or building a school, or whatever it is, that's what they're there asking for. And I think that the real purpose of the Rotary International Convention is to go out and find a partner in order to champion an initiative with a global grant. Or you can go to Rotary.org and you can see everybody else on there as well. You can save yourself a trip. But it's pretty cool on Rotary International. So we've got a polio fatigue issue in America, right? We eradicated that disease a couple decades ago. So right now it's Afghanistan's fight, it's Pakistan's fight. Unfortunately now it's reared its head again in Nigeria. We have 2 cases. So what Rotary has done to get ahead of once we eradicate polio is what's the next focus. So they created the 6 areas of focus, which you see here, and you actually only see 5. I missed economic development. So replacing polio, going down the road in the future, is going to be the 6 areas of focus. Economic development, peace and conflict resolution, disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, maternal child health, basic education and literacy. So if you're going to do a global grant, and it is in one of these 6 areas of focus, It's only 3 criteria. 2, is it long-term, impactful, and does it sustain? Is it sustainable over a period of time? It's not just one shot of money. And then 3, is there an anchor tenant on the other side? Is there a Rotary Club that you've partnered with on the other side that has eyes on it? Those are the 3 criteria. And if you can do that, then you are eligible for a global grant, a successfully placed global grant. So hopefully somebody here wants to do that. We've got a couple global grants going in the district. It's pretty cool. How do I start? How do I lead this part? Setting goals. Setting goals coming in as a district governor is difficult because I think we have a focus problem sometimes in Rotary, right? Is it Interact? Is it Rotaract? Is it Foundation? Is it grants? We have so many different initiatives, especially in a volunteer army when it's 1 year at a time. Hopefully you're building the continuity, right? I don't make a decision without Adam Miller, the district governor-elect, being copied, and I seek his counsel. So I make sure he's on board with it, as well as Blanche Parks, district governor nominee-elect. I make sure that we're building continuity, and I'm trying to. But from a goal standpoint, I don't know what Adam wants to accomplish. Hopefully it's something somewhere nested close to what I'm trying to accomplish. But setting goals is tough, especially when there's so many different things going on. So when I was trying to determine what the goals for the district was going to be a year ago, I was also being copied on demographic information on our district. And so I was receiving this email once a month from Rotary International. And if you don't know what district we are, we're District 5710. Does anybody see where District 5710 is on the list? So this is all the districts within 27 and 21B. We're the worst. We're 22 out of 22. We are literally the anchor dredging along the bottom of the river while the motorboat is trying to take off, right? It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like we're the worst performing district, but the numbers are the numbers. And so for me, creating a goal was pretty simple, and that was growth. Getting back to what we talked about earlier, right? Growing and perpetuating Rotary. So, at President-elect training here in Manhattan a year ago, Vernon was a part of it, we had a little come to Jesus about goals and growing. When I became the president of the Overland Park South Club in 2012, during our club retreat, I told the club, where we had 83 members at the time, we will grow by 50 new members this year. Okay? And of course, there was a lot of doubt, a lot of whining and gnashing of teeth. And while we didn't hit 50, we hit 38. Right? So sometimes you shoot for the stars and you hit the moon. And what we decided at President-elect training, and I believe there's a lot of power in positive affirmation, in people raising their hand and saying verbally out loud, I can achieve 20% growth. Was it 10%? Was it 30%? We had a healthy discussion on it. It came out to 20%. And each president-elect around the room said, I can hit 20%. And so the reason that District 5710 will not be 22 out of 22, and the reason 5710 will grow by 20% this year, is because Rotarians said that we're going to achieve 20% growth this year. And I know we're going to. So these next 3 bullets aren't pertaining to anyone in particular, it's just thoughts. Thoughts on growth. For me, growth is compartmentalized into 3 categories. If we have a new member problem, then we have an invite problem. In 2012, during my first meeting as a president, I said, hey folks, in addition to Jazz in the Woods, which is our big initiative each year, fundraising initiative, I only have one favor to ask of every Rotarian in this room. One. That's it. John, can you, over the course of the next 40+ meetings this year, invite one person and share this fine organization, Rotary, with one person for breakfast? Can anyone, Overland Park South, in this room not do that? Please raise your hand so we can have a conversation. And not one person did. And 83 people invited 83 people, and we grew by 38. So if you have a new member problem, I think we have an invite problem. This is a fantastic club. This club is a leader in this district. You should be sharing this experience with people. If we have a retention problem, and I don't mean retention like someone had a job change, or they lost their job, or heaven forbid they perished. I mean, a retention problem like when somebody walks through that door and they have a vision of what community service looks like, right? I want to do something in my community. And I know and I hear that Rotarians are active in doing something in the community. I want to be a part of that. And when they come in here and they don't experience community service, right? They don't see or they don't witness something that motivates them and inspires them to be retained, then we might have a retention problem. So how does the community serve you, see you? And is your service that which is going to retain members? Hopefully it is. And then attendance. Presenteeism. If you can't be here, you can't invite. If you can't invite, we can't grow. If you can't grow, you don't perpetuate. If you don't perpetuate, then Logan Ford and Lauren Ford don't have an opportunity to be Rotarians. That's a fact. So we're going to hit 20%. And for you, I think 20% is 18. That sound right to you? No. 36. Double it. Hey, it's doable, especially if you share Rotary with somebody. So I'm not competitive at all, but I did call the number 1 and number 2 out of the number 1 through 22 on there. Marianne McDuff, Fort Worth, Texas, number 1. Marianne, what are we doing? Why are you so successful? How are you leading? Well, we started a couple e-clubs, and if you don't know what e-clubs are, they're internet clubs, which I think is cheating, because butts in seats is what's real. People sitting across the table from each other, coming up with inspiring ideas in their community, that's service to me, that's Rotary. So I feel like they cheated, and I told her that, so I called number 2. Same thing, bunch of e-clubs. It was like a cool thing in Texas to start e-clubs, and so that's why Texas is leading across the board there. So I disagree. I disagree with how they're winning. But anyways, I said, tell me more. Tell me about your fellowship. Tell me about your camaraderie. Tell me about your district conference. What does that look like? Well, we've got around 1,200 Rotarians. We'll have around 400 attendees. Okay. How about you? Oh, we have around 1,000, and we'll have 200 attendees at the district conference. Sounds good. So we're one of the largest. We have 2,400 Rotarians. Anybody want to take a guess at how many Rotarians we had at our district conference?
Maybe 100.
It's a healthy guess, Betty.
I was there.
Yeah. We had 80. And they had to be there. It was mandatory for them. They didn't even have a choice. We only had 80 attendees out of 2,400 Rotarians. And that's not your fault. That is my fault. Shame on the district for not providing a motivational or inspirational enough day to inspire you to share a Saturday morning or afternoon with your district. The purpose of the district conference, the purpose is to celebrate. It's to celebrate the collective good of District 5710 and what we accomplished as an organization in our footprint. It's to celebrate the outgoing leadership and thank them for everything they did, and it's to welcome the incoming leadership and send them on their way. I would argue that not leaders, but new members are the most important attendees at the district conference, to inspire them and help share with them what we're doing as a collective. So we're shaking it up a little bit. While the 5th is a Friday, and that's going to be the district governor-elect retreat with all the president-elects, the 6th, that May 6th, that Saturday, will be the district conference. We're going to have some great speakers headlining with Kevin Ingram here, so we can get back here to this community because he's got a doubleheader that day. Hopefully you can make it. We're going to have a lot of inspirational speakers, motivational speakers in the morning. We're going to share our good. We're going to discuss everything that we've accomplished, and then at lunch we're going to break out. We're going to move out and we're going to have a good time. We've got a whole bunch of events planned. We've got iFly, which is indoor skydiving. We've got Top Golf. We've got a service project. We've got Powder Creek shooting. We've got a myriad of activities for Rotarians to do, and then we're going to reconvene for the banquet in the evening, where we're going to party. We're going to have a live band. We're going to have an open bar. This is going to be a great time at the Overland Park Sheridan. It's $90 a night. They give us a pretty good rate. We talked them down from $149, just FYI. And it's going to be a great time. We're going to have a great time celebrating Rotary. So I hope to see many of you there because it's going to be a great time. Oh, and sponsorships. The most you can give is $100. So Chris Ford, owner and partner at Trust, is going to give $100. And that $100 means my name and lights. Trust's name and lights on every pamphlet, website, everything that we're doing for the district conference will have that corporate name on there, as well as anybody else who wants to give $100. And that's going to go to two things, two initiatives. One is going to help subsidize the cost, and the other is it's going to go towards the club that has the best participation. And we'll prorate it because we've got clubs with 200, we've got clubs with 10. But hopefully a club is walking around with a couple $1,000s to spend in the community. So that's the purpose of the district conference. I look forward to seeing you there. I'll hustle up here. Thoughts to leave you with. So don't invite a lot of people and have bad food. Right? That's a quote from the restaurant industry, and it correlates. Invite prospective Rotarians to where you shine. If you shine at your club meetings, then this is where you bring Rotarians. If it's when you're doing community service projects, that's where you invite new prospective Rotarians. If it's at a happy hour or when you're partying, then that's where you invite new prospective Rotarians. Invite Rotarians to where you shine. I don't even have to say the next bullet. Recruit quality people. You're going to know who to recruit, right? You're going to recruit Rotarians. Be passionate. Be passionate about Rotary. Be passionate about doing good in this community. It's all that we have. It's our camaraderie, our fellowship, and the good that we do. Be passionate about it, or why be here? I didn't realize that I was going to fall in love with this above all things, visiting other clubs. I was actually a little intimidated by it. We have the full spectrum of Rotary humanity within this district. We've got 10-member clubs and 200-member clubs, and I love them all. They all have their own personalities. If you have the opportunity to go out, the meals aren't so hot in some of them, but the meals are really good in some others. If you get the opportunity, go out and see other clubs. The singing clubs are hilarious. I love the small clubs. I think I was meant for a small club. They give with their hands, you know. My club, we give with our checkbook. We're different. They do a lot with their hands. It's more inspirational to me. But visit other clubs. Embrace social media. Broadcast your good. Evolutionary. Revolutionary. You got to embrace it. I think that's what you were doing when you were videotaping me awkwardly earlier. Hey, do business together. I don't know why this is so taboo in Rotary. Do business together. Some of my best clients, some of my biggest clients are Rotarians. Do business together. Invite one person to Rotary this year. Share this fine organization with someone. You know, I'm a dad, right? I got a 14-year-old, I got a 10-year-old. My time off of work is gold. Saturdays, gold. Don't mess with my Saturdays, right? So Rotary, that competes with everything else in our lives, it better bring value. This organization better bring value, and that's not your issue, that's Vernon's issue. That's a leader issue. This club has to bring value, or else we're not going to retain great people. We own our traditions don't own us. If it doesn't make sense, don't do it. Rotary is not Rotary International. It is not zone, it is not district, it is people having coffee and drinks around a table in your community doing good. So if something doesn't make sense, don't do it just because you have to. You're Rotary, do what you want to do. And then I'll leave you with the final, fifth secret test for the four-way test. Okay? So don't ever forget, will it be fun to all concerned? All right, thank you very much.
We got any questions? Yeah,
Bill.
Chris, we have, I think, 4 Native American reservations in our district. We have Haskell. Do we have any Native American members of any clubs in our district? And if not, why not?
Bill, I have no idea. I'm going to answer that question with what I've seen or witnessed thus far. I don't think so. So that's a really good question. It's not an initiative that we're pursuing, but I'm a great delegator, and if that's something, Bill, that you want to take on, I'm happy to allow you to do that.
Let's work on it.
anybody else?
So, Vernon,
Yeah, Rebecca.
so it's not only females, it's also look around You know, a couple of things. So when it comes to Rotary, when it comes to recruiting, people will recruit within a decade of their number, right? Your age. So I'm 40. So my network is from 45 to 35. I may do business with older people or younger people, but I will connect with people within a decade of my number, right? We'll have the same sense of humor. We'll have common interests. And so, if you're gonna grow, and you bring in young people, right? You bring in another Tim. Tim's gonna invite people within his age band, and so we'll grow within that age spectrum. Now, from a cultural diversity standpoint or from an ethnicity standpoint, what does your community look like, right? And statistically, you're probably going to grow in proportion to whatever that is. But if you want to make it an initiative, then make it an initiative. But you're right. We don't have a lot of ethnic diversity, at least within this footprint of Rotary in the district.
Anybody else have a question?